Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Guest tonight is Andy again from Elemental Encounters, our resident guest.
Hello.
Um, we've got a nice new theme for the chat window as we get closer to Yule, and I'll say Yule and not Christmas. Don't know whether
Very
you can
good.
see it or not yet, Andy, but it should pop up in a minute. Um, Tonight we're going to break from the norm of talking about ghost hunting and the Fae, and we're going to do aliens instead. So should be a good discussion. We'll cover all sorts of subjects: alien abduction, famous cases, cattle mutilations, why we think, or if we think aliens are visiting here, what we think they look like, and what they're actually up to. So should be a good discussion overall. Is there any particular subject you want to start with, Andy? Should we do it in a set order, or should we just be chaotic and just flip along as we go?
I think we could semi-structure it and then like kind of float off if we,
Go on
you
then.
know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. So I we to start with some of like the simpler stuff.
Yeah.
So let's start with general UFO sightings, I think, and
Mhm.
you know what we consider
A
to be a
UFO. UFO.
true,
Yeah.
yeah, or not.
Right.
I
Hang on
think.
a sec. Carl's just asked a quick question. What is your thoughts on reptilian aliens? Andy?
Uh, there could definitely be a species of them. They're quite documented, especially in some ancient sort of tribal civilizations. As far as I believe, they've got like some cave drawings of what look like reptilian beings.
Yep. Ta-
Um,
Go on.
yeah, there's an old witch doctor somewhere in southern Africa, I think, and he actually called them is it Chituari or something,
Yeah.
and that's what Marvel based their alien race on in its films.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Right.
yeah, there could be something to it.
Personally, I believe they probably do. Because I believe there's actually quite a lot of different alien races out there. I think we're far from the only life in the universe. If you think about it, if we hadn't been hit by the meteor, who's to say what the dinosaurs would have developed into by now? You know, they'd have had a 65 million year head start on us. We've only been around a couple of million years as Homo sapiens. So, yeah, quite possibly there's probably more than one type of reptilian species out there. What you've also got to bear in mind is we're carbon-based life forms. There's nothing to say there ain't something like silicon-based life forms out there. So I think there's probably a myriad of different types of aliens out there. Okay, Andy, back onto your topic then, what you were going to say.
Right. So general UFO sightings then.
Yep.
So I mean, have you ever had a proper sighting or something you can consider really strange?
I've had one, and I don't know whether it was to me a UFO because I couldn't identify what it was,
Yeah.
but I ain't saying it was a UFO. And it was
Right.
basically when I was still with Jay's mom. And if she comes on at some point tonight, she might do. I don't know. She'll confirm it. We did actually see one once in the sky, and it was a very strange lights that came over us, sort of thing. And it was quite interesting. No sound or nothing, but
Yeah.
as to whether it was actually a UFO, I don't know. To me, I class it as a UFO because I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, but whether it was an alien spacecraft, couldn't say one way or the other. Can you just carry on a sec, Andy, while I just take this
Yeah.
call?
No
Cheers.
worries. So I once saw an up close and personal strange craft in the sky that it was like a flat bottom but a dome top, and it had a load of red lights chasing right bottom on it, and then this one red flame coming out at the back on it. Um, see, I consider that as a true UFO because we ain't got, well, as far as we know, we ain't got craft that looks like that, and it wouldn't be in a council estate in South Yorkshire hovering over houses. Um, and that's really all. I mean, I've seen odd stuff in the sky, but that were really, really, really up close and personal. Um, like Brett said, there were no sound on mine. Um, we had a really strange scenario where if you went, I would say about what a good, let's say about 1,000 meters away, you couldn't see it,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you entered back into area, it was there again.
Right.
So that were really, really, really bizarre. But you know, there were no other reportings on it at all, though. Just me and this one other lad that saw it.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, the one that
Yeah.
me and Julie saw was actually reported by loads of people that night.
Right.
It was seen by a large number of people because
Yeah.
it was around for quite a while. But
Right.
what is interesting to note is up here where we live in Yorkshire, I don't know how many people know, but the Pennines, which are about 450 miles long, are
Mhm.
considered the most active UFO area in the country.
Yeah.
And it has actually got the name of UFO Alley. It is known in UFO circles as UFO Alley, the Pennines area. So there are a large number of cases up here in Yorkshire, and obviously up into, because I think they go as far as Scotland, don't they, the Pennines?
Yeah.
But
So.
you know, there are large amounts of UFO cases. I think when I read somewhere a couple of weeks ago that since the Todd Morden case, there has been 850 reported sightings
Really.
in Yorkshire alone.
Wow.
You know, so it is a really active area.
Yeah.
Obviously, it goes on in other places, which we'll get onto with, you know, areas where it happens, Roswell, things like that.
Yeah.
So you know, we'll cover all that a bit later on. But yeah, if you want to see UFOs in the UK, apparently anywhere in the Pennines is a good place to be. Hi, Maureen. Maureen's come to gamble. Uh, Maureen's
I mean,
come for a weekly gambling session.
she has. She has. She'll have been rattling all week.
Yeah, it's like a night at the bingo for Maureen when it comes on this channel. Hi,
But yeah, I mean,
Selena.
a lot of people just report lights, don't they? And
Mm-hmm.
you know, sometimes is it in it? You know, what could it be? Because I mean, you hear about strange maneuvers and you know mass lights coming as well.
Yep.
You know, a lot of people put it down to weird stuff like flares or
Yep.
the old Chinese lantern thing that there were a craze of a few years ago.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
think they've been banned now, ain't they?
yeah, more or less, you really don't see it anymore, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As to flares and stuff, I don't know how many of you have actually seen the flares, but flares are quite distinctive
Yeah.
in what they do and the way that, you know, and they gently come down and they slowly fade out. And
Well, that's it.
you know,
Yeah.
a lot of UFO sightings, they report really strange manoeuvres and, you know, really high speeds. The only thing you have to be aware of nowadays is that drones are extremely popular nowadays.
Yes.
I've got one myself. That I'm going to start using when we go out on investigations, and that has actually got lights on it, so you can fly it at night.
Yeah.
So you know, you have got to take into consideration things like drones, things like if you're near airports, you know, are you on a flight path of, even if you're not, you know, extremely close to an airport, you still may be on a main air corridor. It's all kinds of stuff like that. But you know, you've then got to take into your different close encounters, first, second, and third, and
Oh, of course, of
you
course. I
know,
mean, we had a strange sighting at Heathrow because a friend of ours lived down there, and from their back garden you could see planes coming in. It were an amazing sight,
hmm
and and Jill were like, We've seen some strange lights around airport, like, but you know, like a cluster."
hmm
And I was like, "All right." Anyway, this one night we were sat in garden down there, and these three, and I mean they were like slightly pink tinted.
hmm
These three lights come in a line, and they were like flying up, right slow. And I goes, "Oh look," and she goes, "That's them." Anyway, we stood up, and her husband stood up, and there were a few more people at garden. They were like, "What are you looking at? We can't see out." And
yeah,
three on us could see, and three people couldn't.
right,
Right? And I says, "It's right." I says, "Darren," I says, "Like, look at me hand. I'm pointing straight. It's right there." and you were like, I can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, these lights kind of started twirling round each other in circles, right? And then ended up making like a pyramid shape in the sky and then blinking out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, what is interesting to note, and about that case where you said when you got too close to it, you couldn't see about it.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of you are really into UFOs, but there is a guy in America called Bob Lazar
Yes.
who actually claims to have worked on propulsion systems of UFOs at a place called S4, which was attached to Dreamland, which was attached to Area 51. It was in very close proximity to Area 51, but on the same site but a different location. It was actually built into the side of a mountain, basically, or a canyon type thing. And he was actually explaining this phenomenon about why UFOs were disappearing when you get into a certain range of them.
Yeah.
And he says the propulsion system he worked on was a gravity-based propulsion system, and apparently the gravity forces that these propulsion systems generate are actually strong enough to bend light.
Yeah.
And when you get within the certain area of the field, it actually bends the light round the UFO, so it technically makes the UFO invisible, particularly when you're right underneath them.
Yeah.
And he says, they don't believe that or he didn't believe that it was a deliberate thing. He says, it was just a byproduct of that kind of propulsion, anti-grav propulsion. Apparently, it happens with all strong anti-grav fields of bad bending light, as it does with black holes. So that could explain why, when you got near to a UFO, you couldn't see it, because if it was similar to the one that Bob Lazar claims he works on, it would have been anti-grav fields around the
this
ship.
was opposite. The further we got away, we couldn't see it, but the closer we could.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But there again, you don't know how it was bending light or stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I always described it as we were inside the radius bubble where we could see it.
Yeah.
And as you pulled away, you couldn't, which would explain why there were no mass reports.
Right.
Yeah.
See, a lot of people where UFO sightings are concerned are under the false impression that they don't really start until the late 40s, early 50s, with the advent, with the Roswell case and all the B movies that were coming out then. That they were, a lot of them were sci-fi based.
Kenneth, that pilot as well, weren't they? We saw about about 7 or 12.
Yeah, flying in formation. Yeah. Well, that was pretty much the. He was the guy who coined the term flying saucer.
Yes, that's correct.
But if you research back in history, there are this hieroglyphic symbols that actually look like spacemen and spaceships.
Mm-hmm. There's actually models as well, isn't there?
Yeah,
there's Mayans and
Mayans,
stuff like that.
the Incans, the Aztecs. There's a tribe called is it the Drogo tribe, who have actually got extremely accurate knowledge of the Sirius sector of space, which wasn't discovered, I believe, until the 60s, late 60s. Mm-hmm. And that they have had this knowledge for hundreds of years, and they claim that their knowledge was given to them from, they call them the gods who descended from the heavens. So if you look into ancient history, there are thousands and thousands of references to flying saucers and aliens and things like that. Even medieval paintings, there's loads of them with. With saucers and men sitting in ships flying through the air in landscape paintings and all sorts of things.
Yeah, there's some really famous ones, isn't there? Even some like very biblical style ones that have got the UFOs in them.
Well, the Book of Enoch, which isn't actually in the Bible as such, but is connected to the Bible. Is actually a book about a guy who claims he was picked up and flew around the galaxy in a spaceship, right. and that is from biblical times.
Yeah.
And they were explaining about the Great Flood and why everything happened and blah 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 blah, and it's all to do with that. So the Book of Enoch is basically a UFO manual, believe it or
Right.
not, and and it's quite it's not even addressed in a roundabout manner. He actually declares that this being, and he names this being, took him in a ship, and he describes what the ship did, how it flew, what it sounded like, and where they went. And
Right.
this is from biblical times, and that's the Book of Enoch. It's all very strongly linked. Then you got books like Chariot of the Gods, which
Oh
was
yeah, the
which is
ancient
an
astronaut theory.
which is the ancient astronaut theory. They all
Yeah.
link in. Um,
Chariot of the Gods.
yeah,
Brilliant.
that is one of the most famous. When it really started kicking off, though, I would say has got to be 1947 with the famous Roswell case.
Yes.
At the time, it crashed on the ranch and apparently was there for a couple of weeks
Hmm.
before it was reported to the military.
Yeah.
Apparently it was discovered by a rancher who
Old
didn't
Mac Basil.
yeah. Uh, he collected samples of the material from the crash site, and it was described as like tin foil, aluminium foil.
Yep.
It had got glyphs imprinted on it, but the most remarkable property of it was you could actually crumple it up in your fist, open your hand, and it would reform back into the shape it originally was.
Yeah.
It was basically memory metal. Now,
Apparently they couldn't cut it or drill it
that's
either,
right,
could
yeah,
they?
yeah, and
Yeah.
it wouldn't burn or melt or anything. They tried cutting it; it was extremely strong. What the US government didn't like people and has tried to keep from people from knowing is it was actually shown to an awful lot of people in the Roswell area.
Yeah.
And later, when it all blew up, they were all actually taken to a room. Some of them were taken to the crash site, and some of
Yeah.
them were taken to the room, and they were basically threatened if the witnesses are to be believed. And
Yeah.
they were told that nasty things would happen to them if ever they revealed what they'd seen.
Yeah.
The UFO was actually carted to a barn on the ranch before the military got to see it. There, it is claimed that four bodies were actually, four aliens were actually recovered at the crash site.
Hmm.
Two of them were dead. One of them was dying, and one of them was very much alive and walking around
Yep.
the crash site. They came and took them away in army ambulances. They were bundled onto a plane and they were taken to uh, Fort Worth, I believe it was, in Texas. This was all done under the instruction of the military. Obviously, while this was going on, the military was chucking out their cover story of a weather balloon.
Yeah.
Uh,
And they set Jesse Martell up as fall guy for that, didn't
that's right, they did.
they? Yeah.
They did, yeah. Because they originally released that they had recovered a flying saucer, and then they changed their mind the following day when the US top brass finally waded in on it.
Hmm.
There is testament from the pilot who actually flew the bodies and the wreckage of the craft to Fort Worth, and he never revealed what happened until close to his death, because everybody involved in what happened at Roswell was subject to the National Secrecy Act. They couldn't disclose anything, but he did, and he did eventually sign an affidavit of a statement where he told his story, and he confirmed that two of the aliens were dead. One of them actually died. I think it was shortly after arriving at Fort Worth in Texas. But the fourth one, it is claimed, actually lived for about 3 years afterwards, and they did an awful lot of studies on it.
Yeah.
They also claim, if Bob Lazar is to believe, that there are 11 separate aircraft currently in 11 different types of aircraft currently in possession of the US government. It is also claimed that the British government owns some, China have got some, Russia have got some, and a couple more countries, I think French and Germans, and even the Italians apparently are all in possession of various what you'd class as flying saucers.
So it suggests quite a few's coming down over here then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and apparently they are 11 distinct different craft. They're not 11 of the same type. They're
Well, this is the thing. I mean, going back to us first topic on the UFO thing you said, they always look different, don't they?
yep.
Yeah, it's like a personal thing, I think. That's what I believe, anyway. It's like they build their own.
Well, the
You know?
the majority of abductees or contactees, depending on what happens to them, have described. I think there's basically 6 major types. You've
Yeah.
got your little greys. You've got slightly,
Larger grains.
a slightly larger version of the grey. Then there's the type that basically look almost human, but they tend to describe them as elven looking, with angular features.
They call them Nordics, I think.
Yeah, with the big blue eyes, and they've got slightly
Yeah.
pointed ears.
Regular blonde hair, yeah.
You've got the reptilian species. There is also a mantid species that's reported a lot, believe it or not, which are basically like half praying mantis, half humanoid type things. And then there's a really big tall version, which is apparently 7-8 feet tall, but they're also humanoid looking as well. But they're the basic 6. But literally, it all started kicking off with Roswell in modern times. It is believed that it was a massive US government cover-up. There are well over 100 statements of various people concerning Roswell who have since come forward, and pretty much all of their statements tie up in agreement of what was seen at the crash site. Apparently it left a gouge in the ground about, I think it was 500 feet long as it came down through the field.
It hit ground, didn't it? But like kind of swooped back up before it landed.
Yeah. Apparently it impacted, raised again, and then it ploughed into the field, and it created a 500-foot long furrow in the dirt. And it was actually partly buried once it came to rest. 2 of the bodies were still in the craft. One of them was outside injured, and apparently the other one was walking around perfectly healthy.
Yeah.
And these were all described as little grey men, about 3 feet tall, with the big black eye type. But that is how your UFO, modern day UFO phenomenon started. I think we'll go on to next. Do you want to do contacting abductees, Andy?
Yeah, we can do.
Right. Do you know any of the famous abductee cases?
Yes. Well, one of the biggest, earliest ones is Betty and Barney, isn't
Well,
it?
they are considered the grandfather of alien contact, because they are the ones who described the Greys originally.
Yeah.
So go on then, if you want to tell them about Betty and Barney Hill.
Right. So, as far as we know, do you know what year it happened? I can't quite remember.
I think it was 19...
50 summit? Wait, 50?
I can't remember exactly.
Well, I know Project Blue Book got set up just prior to then,
Yes.
and that were in 47-ish.
Yeah.
So it might be about 51 2, I reckon.
Mhm.
So they were travelling at night, weren't they? They were just driving along in the car, and apparently the car got a craft come up at top of them.
Yeah.
With lights and stuff, and they shut the car electrics off. Everything was going weird, and speedometers were all going mad, and time froze for them, didn't it? And
Yep.
they got took onto a craft.
Yep. What interesting to note at this point is they weren't aware of any of this at the time.
No. So I mean, I've watched quite a lot of sort of interviews with them, and they've never faltered, have they, on the stories or out like that?
No. They are both dead now, but
yeah.
see, basically what happened? They were driving home from a vacation. what they originally remembered was a bright light in the distance coming towards them.
Yeah.
The next thing they actually remember is waking up, still in the car, but they had lost 3 hours of time, and they couldn't remember why. When they got home, Betty noticed that her dress was ripped. There was 3 strange spots found on the boot of the car that when you placed a compass over, the compass just spun wildly. So there were some kind of magnetic spots on the car. For about 6 months, both of them had some really bad nightmares about what was going on, and they originally went and met a doctor, and I can't remember. I think he was called Joseph. I think his second name was Simon. I think his first name was Joseph, who finally agreed to do what at the time was an experimental procedure called regressive hypnosis. Over the course of the following 6 months, he hypnotised both Betty and Barney separately, and they told their stories about what happened. And apparently what they claim is the light came close and stopped in front of the car. The car died, the craft tilted towards them, and they could see the beings in front of them. The ship landed. Apparently they were dragged into the ship against their will, and apparently Betty literally described she was pretty much having a fist fight with one of these little aliens as they were dragging her into the ship. She didn't go willingly. They were taken to separate rooms, stuck on examination tables. They ripped a dress because they didn't understand how zippers and things worked, and they tugged it rather than using the zip. They performed a number of really strange experiments on them. They counted the vertebrae. They examined the joints. They examined the feet, and then towards the end, they actually inserted a very large needle into Betty's belly button, and she believes it was to extract eggs from her. And even under hypnosis, they had to bring her out of it because it was causing her that much pain and fear at the time. What is also interesting to note is Betty and Barney were a mixed race couple. Yeah. Barney was black and Betty was white. They were fascinated that Barney had false teeth and Betty didn't, apparently. That was extremely interesting to them. And things like the different skin colour and stuff was apparently very interesting to them. But it was a very traumatic experience for them, Betty and Barney Hill. It's also interesting to note, to their dying day, neither of them, despite all the ridicule they endured, ever wavered from the story of what happened.
Yeah, ever.
But it did take regressive hypnosis to bring the full story out. Originally, they couldn't account for the lost 3 hours. So that your spider's spin a web in mine. Don't know what that means. It was a very interesting case. Another one that is really interesting is the case of Travis Walton.
Oh yeah.
Which spawned a film called Fire in the Sky. Basically, Travis was a logger who was with a logging team out in the middle of nowhere, cutting trees. They were having a drink one night, and apparently a huge, great ball of fire came down out of the sky. I think there was 5 of them altogether, weren't they?
Roughly, yeah.
4 of them ran off and left poor Travis on his own. They got to the car. Travis never turned up, so they went back to find him, and there was no sign of poor Travis. Mm-hmm. For 5 days, he was missing, and they were convinced, to the point the police even actually arrested the other 4 who were with him because they were convinced they had actually murdered Travis and buried his body out in the forest.
Yeah, because he'd had a little trouble with one of them, hadn't he?
Yeah, he'd had a bit of a fist fight with one a couple of days before in a bar, apparently.
Yeah.
Bit of a disagreement. But I've seen the interviews with Travis where he said, that was common anyway, so it shouldn't have been treated as anything suspicious. But his friends were actually murder suspects for 5 days. The police were convinced that they'd murdered him. 5 days later, he came wandering out of the forest, a little bit dehydrated and worse for wear, and told the story similar to Betty and Barney Hills, that he'd basically been on a spaceship for 5 days, where they again had done similar kind of things. They'd experimented on him, medical exams, took samples from him. But I think he also described, wasn't he one of the first people to describe one of the hybrids?
Yeah, I believe he was. Yeah, yeah.
Now, a lot of abductee cases claim that they're being abducted for a hybrid program that these little grey beings are performing. Apparently, their race is in trouble biologically, and their DNA is degrading. A lot of this is what I don't know how many of you watch Stargate, but this a lot of the Grey story is what Stargate is based on regarding the Asgardians in that. And basically they're claiming that they are hybridizing humans with alien DNA in an attempt to save themselves. Don't know how true it is, but it is a very common concept in alien abduction cases. Women are also claimed that they have gone back. They're being abducted on a regular basis, and they have actually gone back and met their children on board alien ships a couple of years later, which I think is quite interesting. And I've lost my lighter now, so it's the end of the world. What's your thoughts on that, Andy?
What about
the hybridation stories?
hybrid and yeah? Well, it's a very common theme, isn't it? For what, especially for somewhat larger cases.
Yeah.
It was the same way Whitley Strieber case. I think basically what were happening with case of him is because he went through all hypnosis as well.
Yeah, he did.
And that's how he sort of started remembering it. It terrified him. But I think one of his last encounters he had, he actually met a child that the fetish to him.
Yeah.
But if I'm not mistaken, it was something to do with another woman that they'd been taking. We met. And I think he used to meet her on the ship, and they used to send them off to do stuff, you know. Yeah. And yeah, so yeah, it's quite a. To be honest, I mean, if it all obviously was real, and it does lend to that all sort of their race is deteriorating, then it would make sense.
Yeah.
To try and save themselves somehow, and it'd lend sense to why they medically probe everybody, you know, that they come across to take samples and see who's fit enough, and you know, it does make sense.
Yeah, Becky says, wasn't it Travis who said that the Greys with the big eyes was just a suit they wore? Yeah, there's been a couple of different descriptions of the Greys, Becky. Some people describe them as wearing like little snowsuits, and that the grey is actually their, you know, the suits. Other people have claimed that they're basically naked,
yeah,
and that the skin is actually grey. Another common claim by abductees is that they are actually drones. They're basically clones.
I've heard that
under the control of the elf type race, whatever they class them as. And apparently the little greys who come and visit Earth in the ships are basically drones that are just used for collecting humans and stuff. Interesting to note with things where people have claimed they've been abducted or they've seen UFOs is the cattle mutilations. Now this is one of the areas where I'm a bit dubious when it comes to UFOs. I am of the opinion if there are races out there that are capable of travelling millions and millions of light years across the galaxy, I highly doubt they need to land and do a quick science experiment on a cow. I would have thought that their technology is so far advanced they could probably scan the entire cow without even touching it.
Yeah.
You know, so there's no denying that these mutilations occur a lot around UFOs and stuff, but for me they're one of the more dubious areas because I can't understand what the motivation is for chopping up cows and taking chunks out of them, and you know, a lot of them have just got like circular incisions out of the jaw and the tongue's been taken. Crop circles, ETA, again I think is more of a human thing. What's your opinion on mutilations and crop circles, Andy?
Well, I'm a bit the same with mutilations because it really don't make any sense. Only thing I could lend to it is that they were gathering some sort of, like DNA farm,
Yeah.
on even an animal, but
You
then
know,
you'd be seeing it
but
in a
with
wider
modern, even
range.
with our modern DNA, all they'd have to do was pluck an hair off a cow.
Exactly. You wouldn't need to be gouging and killing animals.
No, and draining them of
Uh,
blood and stuff.
yeah, it don't make any sense at all. Um, but still, it is an odd phenomenon in itself.
Yeah, yeah.
What is doing it?
The only reason I could think of the mutilation thing, and this is going to sound really bad, if you watch War of the Worlds, where they get killed off by the microbes and
Yeah,
bacteria and stuff, that is the only reason I can actually think of why they need to take blood and tissue samples, is if they're actually developing resistances to the bacteria and microbes on Earth.
yeah.
You know, because obviously you can't get that from a strand of hair. But
No,
I
no.
can't understand why they'd need to drain the entire cow of blood, and why it's always specific areas like round the jaw or the tongue or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is what I'm saying, Stephen, mate. You know, but that's the only reason I could think that they would need samples off a cow is for the microbes and bacteria. But there again, microbes and bacteria that are native in a cow system are not necessarily going to be native in a goat system or a chicken
Yeah.
system or our system. You know, they would have to literally take samples of every animal on. Maybe they are vampires, Becky. You know, there are animals out there who do live on blood, but you know, they would have to be doing it with every single species on Earth, plus all the soil samples and air samples and all sorts of things they'd have to be doing.
Yeah.
You know,
Which is what I said. You'd be seeing it on a much wider
yeah,
scale
yeah.
for
It's just
animals,
too
wouldn't it?
specific with bovines all the while, which I find a little bit odd.
Yeah.
Um, Bit of a dodgy one with that. Leading on to the abduction cases and the mutilations, the other explanation that some abductees give about being abducted with the not the hybrid program itself. Oh, I've lost my train of thought now. You know when you have one of them horrible
Yeah.
blankouts? I've
Yeah.
just had one, and I can't remember where the line of thought was going. I can't remember. I'm gonna have to move on to somewhere else until it comes to me, and I'll mention it when I get back onto it. It's alright. I'm getting old. I'm getting dementia. Um, Skinwalker Ranch. Somebody's just mentioned, don't they? Skinwalker Ranch is an interesting one because it's got such a wide range of phenomena surrounding it. It's not only UFOs appearing out of what sound like dimensional gates and UFOs being spotted. You've also got the cryptids there. The mutilations go on there. Skinwalker Ranch actually started with UFO sightings and mutilations, and then went on to the cryptids, the werewolf that was bulletproof, and the various entities and stuff that they've seen there. Um, oh yeah, that was what I was going to say. That was what I was going to say about
All right.
abductions. The other theory is, and it is supported in a way, is that we are actually a giant ant farm.
Yeah.
Basically, we are a giant biological experiment of these aliens. And what a lot of abductees reference is the missing link. Because if you go back down the genetic tree of Homo sapiens, as everybody knows, there is a period where evolution jumped by about 10,000 years, where they've got no record of an ancestor that fits there.
Yeah.
And they claim that the aliens they had visited millions of years ago, interfered with the native primates genetically, and created us, and that is why there is no missing link found, because there isn't one. They literally genetically altered monkeys into the first pre-human, early humans,
Yeah.
and that is the other theory regarding abduction. Um, to be honest with you, it's one that's quite feasible.
Well, yeah, definitely. It's like that. Is it Anunnaki that lend tail to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that they were. I mean, I think they basically based the engineers on them, didn't they, from the Alien films?
Yeah.
Yeah, like they were going and populating planets with organisms and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Now,
it's pretty cool.
I personally have had an acquaintance for nearly 30 years who claims to be an alien abductee.
Right.
Now, it's a woman, and she is well documented in UK ufology. She's in a number of books. She's if you're into UFOs, if I said her name, you'd know who she was. Now, this woman has claimed that she's been abducted since the age of 5. Um, I'll be honest with you, I don't believe a word of a story. Knowing the woman as I know her personally, there are issues there, and I will just say that. But her story is that she's been abducted since the age of 5. Somewhere around about the age of 7, she claimed they removed her womb. They'd visited her since childhood. At the age of 35, on one of the visits, they came and gave her womb back, believe it or not. And she was instructed by these aliens that she had to have sex with her boyfriend in this particular spot in a field where 2 ley lines cross. Now, this woman has not only been on UK TV with a story, she was taken years ago to a big show in America, flew first class on Concorde to New York, and I believe I can't remember whether it was the Jay Leno show, but it was one of them, one of the big ones at the time to tell a story.
Right.
So this woman is seriously believed. If these UFO researchers knew the other things she claimed, they probably wouldn't take a story so seriously. So you do have to take into consideration where UFOs and abductees are concerned. Is a lot of them are, shall we say, doing it for attention or for other psychological reasons. But
Yeah.
there are so many cases out there where they are perfectly down to earth, normal people who have actually made their own lives a misery by telling their stories, and have, would never in a million years lie to put themselves in that situation. Because let's not be honest here, you'll exactly, Chris. But the UFO community is riddled with nuts. I will be honest. There are a lot of people out there who are maybe not, fully psychologically developed as they should be. And it is one of the big areas where you can literally claim anything and be believed. But I personally do believe that there are a core number of cases out there. Travis Walton being one of them, because he has taken polygraphs and stuff, and he at least believes his own story. Bob Lazar has taken polygraphs, and he's passed his. Betty and Barney Hill never changed the story at all. So I do believe that we are being visited by aliens. What their purposes are, who's to say? There are stories, there are abductees out there where the stories range from they're coming here for totally benign reasons to help us out, to stories where abductees have basically been told flat out, we're coming to invade you. So, who's to say?
And then you get them, like ones where they're like trying to promote saving Earth as well, don't you?
Yeah.
Where they say like, oh, there's mass catastrophe coming and you need to start looking after it. 'Cause that's another common theme. Because I mean, what do you think to that? Where TV got hijacked with that message from that alien.
Yeah.
Can you remember that?
Yeah.
Back in '70s.
Well, see, the thing we've got to think now is we're actually going into, we're not an advanced technological species, but we are getting to the point now where space travel is going to become more of a reality. And we've split the atom now, and it brings a lot of consequences. And if there are other races out there, which personally I believe there are, we could pose a threat by doing something accidental. So I think there may be that thing where we are being monitored and whether they're coming here to help make the planet better, or whether they're just coming here to make sure we don't cause them any trouble, I don't know, Andy. I don't know, but I do believe they're coming for a reason. You know, I don't think they're just coming on a sightseeing trip. I do believe there's a method for them coming here, and reasons for coming here. And it could quite possibly be, if they're a benign species, that what we're doing to our Earth now, they've already been through, and they're coming to help us avoid it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but it ain't saying all of them who turn up. Maureen, do you think there are aliens that look like humans? Yes, I do, Maureen. I do.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Definitely.
I do believe that there are already hybrids on this planet, and not only do I believe there are already hybrids on the planet, I believe, and I'm going to sound like a conspiracy nut now, I believe they are here with the knowledge of our governments. I don't think they're hidden from everybody. I do believe our governments are actually in collaboration with them. And I think it also explains the massive technological jumps over the last 50 or so years. That there's some deal been struck where they're coming here and doing whatever they need to do, and the payback is they're slowly leaking technology back onto us.
And it's probably far more forward than what we think as well, just
Yeah,
withholding it.
yeah, yeah. Well, there's claims that there are massive tunnels been dug all over America and all under the Atlantic and connecting everybody together, and it's all to do with the alien conspiracies.
Yeah.
That it's all being conducted underground in these huge, great, underground laboratories, and they're all connected by tunnels and stuff that they don't need to travel on planes and stuff. What do you believe about hybrids and whether they're here, Andy?
I think it's possible. I mean, there's been all sorts of stories I've heard about it, especially underground stuff. I was watching this guy that said he used to battle them. They had to battle them underground, and one bit his fingers off.
Yeah.
He weren't military like he were quite high up there, but I don't know. Because there's like USOs as well, there's underwater ones that suggest that they're coming from Earth somewhere, because they always see them coming up out at water and
Well,
then out.
funnily enough, there was a lot of cases in Newport in the early 80s. And New Haven as well was another place in Wales where the UFOs were at. It was two farms that were being plagued by UFO encounters, and they were actually seeing the ships rise up out the sea.
Yeah.
Apparently there was like a big clump of rocks off the coast, and they were diving in that areas, and there was suited figures seen walking around on the rocks.
Really?
And they believe that's where they were based. Hi, Nikki. Let's have a look at some of the questions, Andy. Do you think we've just answered that one? Do you think any of us are bred from aliens? Maureen, quite possibly. We don't know how long this. If some of these abductees are to be believed, this breeding program has been going on for a couple of million years. And they're just visiting us to maintain us, sort of thing. So it's quite possible that we could all be partly hybrid by now, because I remember reading a couple of years ago that there was some biologist who, when they were mapping the human DNA and the genome, that apparently there was a percentage of our DNA that couldn't be identified from Earth.
That's right. I remember seeing that.
And they tried to wash it up.
It's balmy, isn't it?
Water the suspended state, maybe, Andy, quite possibly. Sam's put the oil companies, I think, have a lot to do with the gravity technology being still a secret. The oil companies have a lot of power. This is it, Sam. A lot of these people who are in government are on the boards of the big energy companies and stuff like that. There's a lot of rich people out there who are pulling all the levers that you ain't aware of. But people think they're governed by the Tories or whatever. Believe me, the government, our real government, goes a lot higher than that.
Oh, of course it does.
we're controlled by the money people. The entire planet is controlled by the money people, and they're not going to want technologies coming out that are going to affect their profits. And this is why I think they're not so concerned about the oil reserves running out, because they've already got new technologies lined up. Nikki says, "Is that a picture of Andy?" I see there. Would have been if it stick dreadlocks on it, and yeah,
and a beard,
and a couple and a pair of glasses.
Looks just like me.
But yeah, as to whether we are actually already hybridized, quite possibly, Maureen, because when they were doing the mapping, they did actually discover there was part of our DNA that they couldn't find anywhere on Earth.
Did you ever follow Stan Romanek's story?
Doesn't ring a bell, but tell it me and I might know it.
He's a guy that is been apparently documenting his case for years.
Right.
He's able to photograph and film them. You know, he even had apparently an alien popping up at his bedroom window. It's quite a famous clip. And it like looks at him and it's blinking.
Oh, yeah, I think I know who you're on about. I don't know that was his
yeah.
name. I know who you're on about.
But he apparently had a girl fetched to him one night that he managed to capture on camera.
Mm-hmm.
But she used to phone him.
Right.
Saying that, oh, I'm like your daughter, and they planted her, apparently, in society. But apparently, because he got so deep into it that government have set him up as a bloody like paedophile, and he got arrested, didn't he?
Yeah, well, they made Bob Lazar's life a misery when he finally quit. They actually tried to kill Bob Lazar. They shot at his car.
Yeah.
You know, they did try, and that is what eventually forced him to go public, because he said it was the only way to save his life.
Yeah.
They'd threatened his family. They'd tapped his phones. They'd shot him off the highway, apparently. Now, talking about government conspiracies leads into the most obvious one: Men in Black. What is your opinion? What's your opinion on them, Andy?
Right. So quickly, you know the UFO I was telling you about that I saw?
Yeah.
Well, a few days later, we did get followed by a black car.
Right.
With no lights on.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, this were at night.
Yeah.
We were driving with no lights on. Very clean cut black, kind of oldish.
Yeah.
Right. And every single window on it were blacked out, even the front.
That's weird.
I know. And I noticed it, obviously knowing, you know, I knew bits about it. I mean, I was only 14, I think, back when it happened. But me and that lad had to hide behind other cars on the estate to lose it, and it eventually drove off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've seen video. There's a really good video in there where these two guys dressed in black walk into this office where somebody's had an experience.
With the receptionist where they check the stuff, and she's just ain't aware that it's happened.
Yeah. And the look very strange, very sickly. You know.
Now, what's interesting to note about the Men in Black is what the people who've had visits of them describe that they're not. They get the feeling they're not totally human.
Yeah.
And they're very similar looking. They're normally described as very, like you said, very pasty and sickly looking. Yeah. Normally got very thin lips. A strange waxy complexion is quite often mentioned. And apparently they behave very strangely as well.
Yes.
They're very stiff and what's it. And 9 times out of 10, they turn up and warn people to shut their mouths. Which is rather worrying. Because I would have thought if they were aliens coming for benign reasons, they wouldn't be needing to send these things to threaten people with.
It's strange, isn't it?
The fact that they come and threaten people, you know, say anything and you're going to disappear, suggests to me that there are ulterior motives behind these visitations and abductions and sightings. But I do believe that they are being conducted with the full knowledge of our governments. I don't think it's going on behind the entire planet's back.
Oh, no.
I do believe that, you know, maybe not what we consider the government, but the real governments of this planet
Yeah.
are aware of it.
Yeah.
The people with the real fingers on the buttons have been contacted, and they are in cahoots. Die Glock, the German belt, was supposedly created by alien technology. Well, there are rumours, Dorothy, that night vision technology was created as a direct result of the Roswell crash from technology that they recovered off the disc that crashed at Roswell. And that is where all our night vision technology comes from.
Didn't
Because,
that German bell disappear?
hmm
It just vanished, didn't it?
yep,
God. Yeah.
that magic guy Dynamo, I think he's either alien related or he's a spirit just in the flesh. ETA says one of my friends has rare blood and she believes it's alien DNA. What do you mean by rare blood, ETA?
Is that? Oh, I think I know what that is. It's that.
AB
Is it that
negative.
rhesus negative or something?
AB negative.
Yeah.
Because AB is the rarest blood group and rhesus negative is the rarest of the two. Whatever that rhesus factor thing is.
Yeah.
So I know the rarest blood type is AB negative. Hybrids must be important if they seem to walk around okay. See, Chris, this is why I think, and I think, Hollywood has been encouraged to create a lot of these films over the last 50 years. Things like E.T. and Independence Day and, Star Trek and all this kind of stuff. I think it's actually a deliberate attempt to desensitize us to the fact that
Alright.
there are other things out there and at some point we're going to see them.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, if the government didn't put plans like that into action and they suddenly appeared in the sky one night or one day, could you imagine what the reaction would be?
Well, true.
It ain't going to be good even if they appear now, but it's going to be a lot more toned down than what it would have been had people not been, constantly exposed to sci-fi over the last 50 years.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be a time travel machine created in World War Two. Star Trek was a good call then, yeah, Chris. But that is another thing that a lot of ufologists believe is that sci-fi has been deliberately cultured over the last 50 years to desensitize the planet to the fact that at some point we are going to be visited, and I do believe there's an agenda. I do believe there's a date when there is sometime in the future there is planned they're going to appear. But what we need to worry about is the reason they're going to appear.
Let's hope it's not like the old TV show V.
Hmm Yeah. Can you imagine being swallowed by a
They were
reptile?
reptilian, weren't they?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But believe it or not, reptilian species, as far as abductee reports go, are quite common. Then they're one of the more common species reported. The mantids tend to be the rarer type, but the reptilian types are quite often reported. And it's like I say, Andy, if you think, if that comet hadn't have hit the Earth or the meteorite or whatever it was, and wiped the dinosaurs out, what would the dinosaurs have developed into now after 65 billion years?
Well, exactly. I once read a book when I was younger that actually showed that. Like a dinosaur's evolution into a reptilian humanoid.
Hmm
And it actually showed it in a book, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's cool.
But if you look at the DNA of any species across the planet, there is very little variance in DNA from us to a frog,
Yeah.
or a crocodile. It's only very minute differences in the DNA that determines whether you're born a crocodile or a person.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting subject. Um, there's also the theory about the dark side of the moon.
Yeah,
Have
there
you
is.
heard that one?
I
Um,
have.
some abductees claim that they have actually been taken off the planet to a base that is on the dark side of the moon.
Hmm.
That obviously we can't see. and that they are basically working with governmental scientists on the moon as we speak to do whatever little plans it is that they're doing. There is also... Go on.
They've been trying to prove that it's riddled with structures for years, haven't
Yeah,
they?
yeah. Well, the scans that they've sent back, there are indications on that there are, symmetrical buildings of some type on the moon.
Yeah.
You've got that one of the face, but that could just be a case of
Yeah.
pareidolia.
Yeah.
But there are cuboid structures on the moon. There's no doubt about that.
And there's I've seen one that's got chimneys and pipe work.
That's right.
and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
There's vents coming out of the rocks and what appears to be doorways into the side of ravines and stuff.
Mhm.
But it's a very interesting subject.
It is.
It is one that a lot of people get ridiculed over, and
It is.
if ever you are abducted and you do decide to come out with your story, you do take a risk. Black-eyed children are these alien. Again, there are links CTA where some people claim that these are actually part of the hybrid scheme that's going on. And they say this is why, this could be one of the reasons why when you tell them to bugger off, they tend to disappear without a trace within seconds.
Yeah.
That they're actually, going back onto ships and stuff. Ain't really got an opinion one way or the other on that one because I've never really looked into it. I'm of the opinion they could just as easily be Fae related as they could UFO related.
Yeah.
Because I've never really looked into it, that deeply with the black-eyed kids.
It's one. There's some people out there that think that aliens and Fae are one and the same thing.
They could very well be, Andy.
Yeah, they've tried to logicalise it in modern day.
Yeah.
And try to say that one and the same. We all glamour in and come in as different things, to make you feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
The sort of loss of time and being taken and, but you never know.
Yeah. The thing is, Chris, they can't be crystals because they're actually made of the same stone as the surrounding area, and some of them have that. They've even marked out roads and landing strips and all sorts of things near them. Big, huge, untouched crystals. Really interesting. I'll give you another example of an interesting case that's quite close to home for me and Andy. Is the case of Todd Morden in Yorkshire. That actually started in June. Was it June or May? It was June.
Yeah.
I think it was the 20th of June, something like that. The police were called to the body of a man that had been found in a work yard in Todmorden. When they got there, they found the body of this guy lying face up on top of a 10-foot pile of coal slag. His coat, he was wearing a suit that had been buttoned up wrong, so the buttons down a line with how they should have been, so it looked like he'd been hurriedly dressed. He'd apparently left his house 5 days before in a village 20 miles away to go to the shop to buy a newspaper and never returned. The interesting thing about that was when the coroner examined the body, it was found he had got burns all over his head and the tops of his shoulders and his neck. Nowhere else on his body. And it actually looks like he'd been radiated from above. The most interesting part of the autopsy was the fact the guy was actually smeared in a green coloured ointment all over the burns. When they actually tested this ointment, they couldn't identify what it was. And to current day, they have done numerous tests on it as science has advanced, and they still cannot identify what this green ointment has been made out of. 5 months later, one of the two policemen who initially arrived on the scene of the murder of this guy was on a patrol in Todmorden at night, looking for a herd of cows, of all things, believe it or not, that had been reported wandering round the village of Todmorden. He did eventually locate them, and they were in a locked park. and they couldn't work out how they'd got in there because the gates were locked. He then proceeded to drive off, and just down the road, he claims he was stopped by a spaceship that was hovering in the road. It landed. They took him into the ship, again did experiments on him, and then returned him back to his police station. When he came round, he was actually back in his car, facing the wrong way round, and he'd lost about 30 minutes of time. He radioed the station and told them what had happened, got back, and he was another one who went through regressive hypnotherapy to reveal what had happened on the spaceship. What's interesting to note about that case is he was actually an on-duty policeman at the time, and his account of what happened that night was interesting. On the negative side, it can be argued that that case, that mysterious case which still to this day remains unsolved, of Joseph Adamski, could have been in his mind, and it could have been some kind of, psychological episode. We don't know, but he has always maintained his story that he was actually abducted from his police car that night and taken aboard a ship and examined. How do you get points? You just gain them by being in the stream, Mary, and just putting comments in the can I trade my points for a ghost?
I mean, there's a fair few stories out there with police of like witness stuff, isn't there?
Yeah.
Cause I was watching one online a few months ago where these two coppers that were like somewhere in America that they parked up and they were having like the lunch and that at night.
Yeah.
And they saw this light coming
Excuse me.
to an high-rise block of flats.
Yeah.
And it like beamed, because I thought it were an helicopter to start with, there were no noise. And apparently they saw a woman come out at window, and then light just gone. And then she reported, that she'd been having these like strange visitations at night. And apparently it had upset all her flat. And she grabbed on at bloody, fan that they have at light fittings. She tried grabbing onto that as if she was like being pulled out at window, and she got up and had a look, and her fingerprints were on the fan.
Oh, right.
So she thought she'd dreamt it, but she got up and had a look, and her fingerprints were on there with her dragged her off.
Yeah. Well, what is interesting to note about abduction cases, and this is reported by a lot of people who claim to be abducted, they can be sleeping in bed next to their partner, and their partner never awakes when they're abducted. They report floating out of windows, through walls, and all sorts of things, and they claim to be paralysed at the time and unable to do anything to stop the abduction.
Yeah.
But people have it ain't when you're alone. People have actually been abducted while sleeping next to their partners in bed, and their partner has never even roused when they floated up out of the bed and gone out the window or through the wall.
Yeah, I mean, even like with mass lights, because there's always say like room lights up,
Yeah.
and there's all, and they're never awake from it. So they must have some ability to like interfere with, I would say, frequencies and stuff.
Well, that's another common thing of the abduction cases is 99% of abduction people claim that these beings don't actually talk to them physically. They talk to them telepathically.
Yeah.
That they claim that they've got really advanced mind powers. Now, if you think about it, if they are really advanced civilizations, they're probably getting to their stage in evolution where their minds are developed to such a point where their bodies are no longer really needed.
Yeah.
And this could explain why they're small little grey things, because the bodies are gradually evolution.
Away.
Evolution is gradually eroding away the body because it's no longer needed.
Not needed. Oh, wow.
Which could also bring you into the realms of, could we be talking to aliens on spirit boxes?
Well, this is it.
You know, if there are beings out there that are purely energy,
Yeah.
you know, could they be communicating to us through spirit boxes and EVPs and any kind of electrical
Yeah.
equipment?
Well, I've looked down Router because there's an initiative called CE5,
Mm-hmm.
CE5, and they go out to these like big ranches in states in IRMR,
Yeah.
and they all get together and meditate with crystals and that, trying to call them.
Right.
You know, it's a big thing, and some of the techniques is very similar to what we do as general, like, you know, spirit investigators. Very, very similar stuff.
Yeah.
And apparently you can call upon them to appear in the sky, and then they get some good results.
Yeah. Well, there's quite a few abductees who claim they can summon them at will.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah,
just read Sam's comments, and then
yeah, cool.
we'll go on to implants. Strangely enough, my uncle was doing communication research, and it's very similar to what we call ITC research or spirit box, except using UHF and VHF single frequencies. Yeah, you know, Sam, it's quite possible that they could communicate to us through a spirit box. Another interesting thing with a lot of abductees they report are what they say are implants. And there
Yeah,
are numerous examples out there where these abductees have had medical x-rays after claiming to be abducted, and these implants have actually shown up on medical x-rays, and they're always embedded in such a way that it's dangerous to remove them.
yeah.
Now, there's a woman who specialises in America. She lives in California, so I'm always a bit wary of anybody who say they live in California, because they do tend to be a bit far out in California anyway. She herself is is an abductee, but she's also a fully certified hypnotherapist, and she specialises in abductee cases. One of her clients has actually got 3 of these implants currently implanted in his body, and she is in possession of a signed affidavit off this man that when he dies, those implants are to be removed from his body and given to her, so she
Wow.
can get them medically, she can get them scientifically examined.
Yeah,
Now, that lady I was telling you about earlier on, who I've personally known for 3 decades, she
yeah.
claims she's got an implant in her head,
Okay.
and she has shown me an X-ray of an head with something embedded in the brain, but I can't vouch that it's her head.
Yeah.
But it is definitely an X-ray plate. It's not a, it's not a picture. It is a genuine X-ray plate, and it is, a genuine X-ray, and you can see, and it looks like a little pellet of rice, and it's
Okay.
embedded deep in the brain. It's
Wow.
strange. I'm not totally convinced there's aliens, but they're probably one of the most believable things out of everything. We can't be alone. Right, Steph. We'll talk about there's a number of things that you can cover with this. Um, there's the oh god, what's the Drake's? Oh, what's the second word of it? Not algorithm. Formula. There's the Drake formula, right? And it is linked with SETI, that was originally set up by NASA. Now, I've actually got a program on my computer that runs the SETI at home program when my computer is in use, so that it helps SETI to process all the signals they're receiving from space. So and if you discover one of these signals, you get credit for it. But this this formula that this bloke called Drake developed, takes into 7 different factors surrounding advanced civilizations that are capable of transmitting, and it covers things like the longevity of the species, um, where the planet is, how big it is, what the civilization sizes are, all sorts of different things, and that formula has worked out that at the very least in the Milky Way galaxy alone, there are 10,000 different species of alien, or possible species of alien, planets where life is exactly identical to Earth. The conditions for life. So, and that is just in our galaxy. Now, they've estimated there are 1 trillion planets alone in the Milky Way. And we are just one of billions of galaxies. So, mathematically, just from a mathematical point of view, it is almost impossible that there isn't intelligent life elsewhere out there. And all it needs is a planet in what they call the Goldilocks band.
Oh, that's right.
And that's basically near enough to a sun to produce the atmosphere and the warmth of the planet, but not too close that it's over radiated. And it's the Goldilocks band. And they are already discovering planets that are, similar to Earth. They've discovered one that's only about 21 light years away from us. Is the nearest one. SETI have actually discovered 2 signals at the moment. The main one was discovered in 1976, I believe it was, and it's called the WAR signal, and they believe it is a signal from intelligent life. There has been another one recorded since that has repeated more than once, and that is what SETI is currently looking for. Not only these signals that are not artificial, but they have also got to be repeated to show that they are coming from a intelligent source. And up to this point, they found 1 signal that was repeated twice so far. But the WAR signal originates in the Sagittarius constellation, and they are busy searching the Sagittarius constellation even now for the source of this signal, because it looks like there is intelligent life in the Sagittarian constellation.
So talking about signals, what do you think to Black Knight satellite?
What's Black Knight satellite?
Have you not heard of it?
No.
It's an anomaly that's been floating around Earth since the apparently could get up and look. It's given off so many signals.
Right.
Pre, us being able to send up there.
Yeah.
And it comes across as like a black shape. There's many photographs on it if you Google it.
Mm-hmm.
Some have said it's bloody, tried to debunk it as somebody throwing a towel after a spacecraft, and it's been there a lot longer than that,
Yeah.
But they're actually suggesting that it's something monitoring us. Wouldn't
surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me at all, Andy.
To get close to it.
For all we know, we could be like the Chronicles of Riddick. We could be a prison planet. For all we know.
Well, yeah.
We could be deliberately being hampered from getting into space.
Yeah, it's on our orbit. It's constantly orbiting around us. Oh, it's orbit we can't do.
Yeah.
Like he says. But yeah, have a Google on it, it's really cool.
Yeah, I will do. Sam says some of the early recordings had to be reversed to listen to, and could be the reason people talk about reversed audio in ITC today. Yeah, could quite possibly be, Sam. There's very close links to what SETI are doing in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence and what we do on spirit boxes when talking to the Fae and spirits. There is a lot of similarities. We're basically using the same methods, just looking for different things. And for all we know, at some point we may discover that they cross over.
Well, yeah, I think there might be a key there.
I think we may discover there's a crossover at some point.
One of, like I said, these ranches where people get together,
yeah,
and do stuff. I've actually watched one that's really good that says he gets all rest of stuff alongside his UFO in. Mm-hmm. So we'll get Bigfoot instances, we'll get he calls them little people,
Yeah.
So obviously it's them.
Yeah.
He says he gets like spirit manifestations of stuff he's never he couldn't even recognise what they are.
Yeah.
And he says the key to it is not to class them as all separate things,
Mhm.
and that they all belong in the same spectrum.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. You know, I quite like that.
Yeah. Well, if any of you are interested in Bigfoot, if you do any sort of serious Bigfoot research, you will start encountering reports where a lot of Bigfoots are always encountered in the vicinity of a UFO. And that there are an awful lot of reports out there that have actually seen Bigfoot or big feet. I don't know whether you class them as Bigfoots or big feet. Bigfoots, I presume, innit?
Yeah, I think so.
Have actually been seen boarding UFOs. So
Well, they say in general as well in the States, don't they, that UFO sightings are very prevalent around mountains.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, very, 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 and thunderstorms.
yeah.
You know.
But if you think about it though, Andy, if you're flying around Earth in this ship, you don't really want people to know about, and you've got to have somewhere to keep it, because I presume they ain't just hovering around constantly.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the best places to hide your ship is in an hidden base up in a mountain.
Oh, aye. Definitely.
Because if they've got the technology to cross the universe, they've certainly got the technology to holler out a mountain and make it look like it's still solid,
Yeah.
and build a base in it. There's also the aspect of them travelling is also interesting, because there's many theories on how they're actually achieving that. Some people believe they're just doing it with anti-grav, totally. There are those who believe that they are basically coming from another dimension. And that theory is greatly supported by what's been witnessed at the Skinwalker Ranch, because there have been numerous UFOs reported appearing out of large orange square gate lights that look like gates.
Yeah.
They've actually been witnessed appearing out of what I presume would be somebody's way of describing a dimensional gate. And the other theory is that they are basically folding space.
Falling space and passing through certain point. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, I actually believe the folding space one is probably one of the more likely ones.
But that could also drop into the gate, couldn't it? What you
Yep.
just said.
Yep.
Because there's got to be an entry and an exit point, so it could create some odd disturbance as it's coming out.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
Yeah.
the thing is,
In fact, all three could be happening
Yeah.
at the same time.
yeah, if you think about it, if they're folding space or coming through a dimension, they've got to punch through at some point. So
Yeah.
there's going to be some kind of visible phenomena at the site they come through.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if it's just a shimmering in the air, there's got to be something there where the two meet. So that could have, but they explain them as orange square doorways that appear in mid-air, and the UFOs are appearing out of these orange doorways that appear in mid-air, and that is extremely common at Skinwalker Ranch in the US, where UFOs appear out of these doorways in mid-air, and they've also been reported as being invisible but talking to one another, and people can actually hear them discussing them above their heads. I reckon the crafts are built equilateral and can fly any way they want. Planes are built linear, like stiff bird, and just go straight and curve. Well, if Bob Lazar is to be believed, Chris,
I was just thinking of this, Brett, as well. The same thing popped into my head.
the way that he described the propulsion system on the UFO he worked on was extremely clever.
Yep.
And basically it consists of 3 anti-grav generators on spindles, and they basically swivel round to push the ship in whatever direction it needs to
more
go.
or less dead centre at ship as well.
Yeah, they actually hang in the middle of under the deck, in a level directly under the deck, but they can swivel out in any angle.
But didn't apparently control system as well, just like the handprints or
Well,
something like that.
according to Bob Lazar, there is absolutely no wiring on this ship that he worked
Yeah,
on.
yeah, it was all just done by the like a funny shaped handprint at either
Yep,
side of just this
yep,
like table,
yep.
and it's all done by a. Oh, can you
Yeah,
imagine?
it even sounds like they use some kind of telepathy
To move that, yeah, to
to
tell.
move it. There, he said that was one of the most surprising feature. Rose, you've got to type it once and with no space between the exclamation mark and points. So it's exclamation mark points as one word. If you go points, 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 it'll ignore you. Um, and he said that was one of they never ever found out about this wiring because there was never any found. There's none on the ships. They don't know
So
how
basically,
they
ships
don't.
could just be amplifying their own mind, couldn't it?
Yeah, well, this is what he said. They didn't know what was actually powering them, but what he did say is they actually powered one of them up.
Right.
They actually managed to power one up, and the ship that he worked on actually flew.
Oh, I've heard about that. You know, actual Roswell. There's a TV movie with Kyle MacLachlan. Really good, to be fair,
Mm-hmm.
from early '90s. And in that, I'm sure they said that they were having psychics in to try and fly, or at least lift up that ship.
Well, Bob Lazar actually witnessed it flying.
Right.
He was actually brought out of the hangar he was working in one day, and they hovered it 3 feet off the ground. And he was explaining about and the reason UFOs glow again is to do with the anti-grav bending light,
Yeah.
and that's what makes them glow, and that is why people, think that there's lights all over them when it's actually the light being bent by the anti-grav fields.
Well, that's strange with that one. Me and that lad saw. We both the stories are exactly the same, apart from the light colour.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I saw all red on the ship, he
Yeah.
saw multicoloured. And I always said that's like a fucking. Oh, sorry. That's like a mood ring or something.
Yeah, but there
You know,
again,
it's like.
it could also be, Andy, you actually both viewing it from slightly different angles.
Exactly.
If that's refraction, you could be seeing one part of the spectrum because of the angle
Yeah.
you were looking at it, and he could be seeing all of them.
Because it always puzzled me that,
Yeah.
like, oh, what's the explanation
Yeah.
behind it? I needed to get to the bottom on it, but you can't, can you? You
Yeah,
know?
but Bob Lazar actually stated in this, in all of the interviews he's done, that the ship he worked on, if you stand underneath it while it's in the air, it turns invisible,
Wow.
and it is still there. It's just that the light's being bent, so it disappears from view. And he says they don't believe it was done as a stealth thing. It was it's just a
Byproduct.
a beneficial byproduct,
Yeah.
and that's what allows them to disappear, so quick. But that he also says that the anti-grav fields also explain why they can do these high-speed manoeuvres, because the
Yeah.
field actually takes away all the inertia inside the ship.
Okay.
There is no inertia inside the gravity field. So you can literally do a 90-degree turn at thousands of miles an hour, and
And not feel it.
you'll get no G-forces. Yeah. But, it is claimed that the US government has been testing these ships for years. And the reason Bob Lazar got caught was he was actually taking friends out to S4 Dreamland, an hill just away off the site, and showing them testing these, because he knew all the test schedules. And he was taking friends and showing them flying the UFOs around Area 51.
Yeah.
And he actually got caught. And that was why it all went tits up.
Yeah, because they've tried discrediting him, haven't they, obviously?
Yeah, they've tried all sorts.
I think one of the brilliant things on a documentary I watched about him is that he always explained these hand scanners to get into base.
Yeah.
And they denied that. Anyway, somebody goes, oh, by the way, years later, it weren't that long ago, they sent him this picture of this hand scanner, and I'm like, yeah, you were right, this is what they used to use, and he was made up yet.
Yeah, one of the reasons they proved that he was there was the investigative reporter who actually who he went to break
Yeah.
break the story. Uh, he approached the government and everything, and there was no tax records, nothing. There was no record of Bob Lazar.
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
completely wiped him, and he managed to find him in a phone book, a base
Right.
phone book. He managed to get hold of a base phone book, and
Right.
Bob Lazar's name was listed in it with his number. And that was how the government had denied he was there, and they'd literally obliterated all his financial records, not only him working at the base, but everything. The
Right.
reporter said when he went to start looking Bob Lazar up, he started to doubt him at first because
Yeah.
there was even no records of him at his school or anything. They had
Right.
literally wiped out erased his entire life, the paper trail. And the way he discovered it was they missed the phone book on the base. They forgot to erase his name out the phone book, and that's how he discovered he was there.
One simple little thing.
Mhm.
Amazing.
But we don't know what's coming. I'd like to think they're here for beneficial reasons, but I ain't 100% convinced they are.
You see, I don't know, because it always lends fact on it to like, oh, they could have done whatever they wanted to do many, many years ago.
Yeah.
So there's that side of things, and then there's, well, if it is, why are they in cahoots with government? Because that's how it's pointing.
Yeah. I believe I slant more to either with a giant science project to them, or the truth about they're needing us to create these hybrids to save themselves, and this is why they've got to collaborate with the government, because if they wipe us out, they effectively wipe themselves out.
Well, yeah.
And I think it's one of them two reasons, Andy, that they're coming. But I am one of the people who do believe they've definitely been here and have been here for a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
And
I
I do believe that they're probably walking amongst us now. And you wouldn't know. Dorothy says she wouldn't leave somebody behind. Right, we can just have a general discussion about anything now if you want to. I think that's pretty much covered a lot of the alien stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, some exciting news. I'm going to Andy's tomorrow. We're building my portal. Or Andy's doing the amp part of it anyway, because I'm not touching that. Because me and a soldering iron just do not go together. I'm okay with engraving and stuff like that, but I'm absolutely shit at soldering. So Andy's kindly agreed to do the amp board for me. So you'll be seeing pictures of part of my portal tomorrow, and then once it's finally decorated and stuff, I'll show it you're all done.
Yeah.
Rose was saying tonight she wants one.
All right, yeah, cool. Yeah, I think she got a big shock with my box when we put it on. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to show it. She told me off for what it said, and I'm like, it's not my fault.
Oh, because
Yeah.
didn't it give out some personal information?
It gave out some personal information, yeah.
Oh dear. Always the worst thing. But yeah, you'll be seeing how a portal goes together. It's quite interesting actually.
It is.
I still ain't decided on how I'm going to. We're building it tomorrow, Nicky. How long does it take to put it together, Andy?
If all goes well, a good few hours.
Yeah.
Maybe 4 hours or so.
Yeah. So hopefully it'll be finished for around about 3-4 o'clock, as long as nothing goes tits up. But and then I've got to decorate it.
Yeah, you've got all fun parts to do on your own.
I still ain't decided fully how I'm going to do it. I've decided I ain't having a green man on it because Andy's got one on his, and apparently Sam's got a door knocker on hers that's a green man. So I think I'm going to put a I want pentagram. I want it to reflect Spirit and Fae. So it's going to have a double theme on it. I got
Very
it
cool.
for thongs. You got what for thongs? It's a similar thing, Nicky, but it's using an actual PSB7 and not databanks. And I'm not intending putting the curly copper wires and stuff on mine. Because a lot of them like to. Have you got them on yours?
All I've got is copper between crystals.
Oh yeah, because
You go connecting them up.
he likes to put copper wire between the input and output of the two pedals, and then he
No,
has that bit to hang on to as well, which I really don't see.
yeah,
I always hope he's going to electrocute himself with, but it never happens.
yeah. All mine is copper from aerial SB7 to crystals.
Yeah,
That's
well
it.
that I can
To
understand anyway.
touch.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
you know, but it ain't gonna have all the flashy lights and all that kind of stuff on it, because you know, to me is just personal choice decoration.
yeah. Of course it is.
You know, and I don't really want it covered in flashy lights and stuff, because I do think if you're dealing with, with things that are maybe not used to electronic stuff, flashy lights and stuff might be quite off-putting to them. That is why I love my Rem Bear, because I think it's cuddly and cute and don't look offensive.
Stop
Whereas,
menacing.
yeah, well, your basic Rem pod it could be quite intimidating to somebody, couldn't it?
Oh, definitely.
It could look, for all you know, they might know what a bomb is. It could look like
Well,
it could look like a
yeah,
bomb to them.
exactly.
As we're cute, cuddly little teddy bear, people tend to be okay with. I know.
I once would have.
I know. I
Oh,
forgot to tell you. We had another occurrence in the kitchen the other day, and I forgot to tell you about it. That was what I knew there was something I was going to tell you, Andy.
right.
Got up the other morning, and it ain't gravy this time. The porridge box is in the middle of the kitchen.
Okay.
Stood up. Because Jace buys these boxes. We normally have them at supper, with the little sachets in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the box was stood up, and it's got no top on it. Now, bearing in mind, Kaya will eat anything, and will happily unwrap it, as she proved with the cough sweets the other night. Hadn't been touched on nothing, but when Jace always gets up before me to do a cup of coffee and stuff, and when he come downstairs, it was in the middle of the kitchen. Just stood in the middle of the kitchen. The box of porridge. I was so glad it weren't the gravy thing. But the dogs hadn't even touched it. And I hadn't heard it come, and the porridge is like normally kept about 8 feet away.
Right.
On one of I'm literally pushed right at the back of the work surface. So there's no way it could have slipped and just fell off. It's literally come right away off the top of the counter, come about 6 foot across the floor, and landed upright in the middle of the kitchen. And it was, Jay said it was smack bang in the middle of the kitchen floor.
Cool. That's really cool.
And my kitchen's quite big. It's about 12 foot square.
Yeah.
So it had travelled quite away from, it was just there, the box with the sachet still in it. Kaya hadn't even helped herself, and Kaya loves porridge.
Alright.
So I don't know what happened there, but I meant to tell you the other day and totally forgot.
Looks like you're going to need to put some porridge out next time.
Hinting for porridge now. They want great. Yeah, I should do. Actually, Becky, I should do that to spite them. I should put them some porridge out and sprinkle some fucking gravy in it. Enjoy that. How many points have I got? I never play these games anymore on my own chat. Mind you, not that I ever win anything anyway.
No, you don't. You're very unlucky.
It's weird how the games don't work for you. Oh, look, 545. I'm going to gamble them all. Sod it. Iced 500. There you go. So have you got anything interesting happening?
What, me?
Mm-hmm.
No, not at all. I'm still relaxing out at the minute. Unfortunately, the big collaboration, what we're meant to be doing tomorrow night, I've had to cancel that due to my health.
Mm-hmm.
Great stuff.
I was looking forward to see what was going to happen with that.
Me too.
They managed to cancel the car and everything.
Well, I think Verno's still planning on going. He's took number at guy that owns place.
Oh, so he's still going.
Yeah, I think he still wanted to carry on and try and see if any of his friends wanted to go.
Oh, right. So Jamie and them are going with him.
Not that I know of.
It's a shame that, because that would have been a really good investigation.
Yep, definitely. There'll be other chances.
Yeah. We could always, now you ain't done that, sometime in the new year plan something for Pontefract.
All right.
and see, and see,
Well, I know Rose was wanting to go at some point.
and we could see once and for all if this so-called black monkey's there, which I personally don't believe is.
No, not at all.
I've never had any interest to go to the Grey Street at all.
No, same here. I've
Never
not
had it,
even a
because
thought about it.
knowing what it's been used for in the past, I think the original tales can be questioned.
Yeah.
Where's mine, Andy Lol? Where's your what, Rose? What are you looking for, Rose? Rose wants something, Andy.
I think she thought we were talking about her house, but she might not have caught the same Pontefract.
Where mine, Andy? Oh, right. Does she mean where mine, Andy, not were mine, Andy?
I think so.
Congratulations. Oh, I won some. Yeah.
Oh?
I won an old 250 points. Oh, look who's started gambling again.
I know.
I better still
She's meant
top.
to be working.
I better still top at what's her doing.
She's knitting.
Knitting.
Yeah, she's stuck up knitting.
What an old granny. What you knitting?
She's currently making a little scarf for a wren bear.
Oh, right. I thought I was doing a willy warmer for you for Christmas or something. My mother used to do a lot of knitting. Used to drive me mad. It's that constant tick, 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 tick of the needles.
Alright.
And then I played up for my dad to buy this knitting machine. So he bought her this knitting machine. And a day like it, I could knit faster with the needles, so I went back to the needles. And honestly, the hassle I played up for this machine, I kid you not. And you zip the thing backwards and forwards across it to knit, and I could actually work fast with the needles, so
Yeah.
I went back to the needles sort of thing. But I tell you something I could do. It just looks too. I was knitting. Rose says is knitting you some undies. That's what I said. Rose is knitting him a Rastafarian willy warmer.
I'd wear it.
With a big dollop of brandy. Are these not talking about food?
I think so.
Oh, God. I'll be glad when Christmas is over.
Same here.
I've never been a big Christmas. Well, obviously I was when I was a kid. But, I've never been an overly enthusiastic Christmas supporter.
No.
But, we've got a workshop coming up on the 21st as well, folks. Was it the 21st?
Yes, I believe so.
Which is rather good because it falls on the winter solstice.
It does.
So we're doing Christmas balls, and we're doing a bit of a Yule celebration as well. We're doing more of a traditional pagan thing than your fictitious Christian one. Because Jesus was born in June, apparently, from what they've worked out. So you're celebrating it at the wrong time of the year. That's what they've worked out, Andy. Apparently he was born June, July.
Well, wouldn't that be the actual opposite way around as well? Because, wouldn't that be in bulk?
Yeah?
Because it is, isn't it?
Yeah?
There's the southern and the northern, and they're usually opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because where you are from would be southern hemisphere, wouldn't it? Equator.
Yeah.
Which would be the opposite to what we celebrate.
Yeah, because when we celebrate the winter solstice, the southern hemisphere is celebrating the summer one.
Yeah.
Because Australia has their Christmas at the height of summer, don't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Which I find weird.
So they even got that wrong, told Christians, didn't
Yeah,
they?
yeah. You won't believe what I've just seen again.
Really?
Hmm. And that's the first time I've seen it in days.
Okay.
And it's just shot across the door. Well, it's shot across. I've got my jacket and stuff hanging over the door, and it's just shot right across my jacket, across the door, as I looked at it. And it was moving. It was moving this time. Oh, my t-shirt's moving on the door.
Is it?
Yep. Only very slightly, but it's moving. Stop now. That's weird. It was actually moving like it was being blown. Told you, Sonny, whenever I talk to you, you're a bad influence.
Proper.
I'll probably
Can't
be
help
gravy
it.
poisoned again tomorrow morning. I keep getting this light appearing in the house, Nicky, and it's the weirdest light I have ever seen in my life. Because you'd expect a light to be like spherical, and this one is rectangular. Honestly, it is the weirdest light I have ever seen, and it's white. Well, it almost looks frosty, like it looks like a piece of quartz crystal that ain't been tumbled. Rough quartz crystal is what it looks like. And I've just seen it again, and it was literally moving quick this time. And it's just shot, because my jacket's black, and it's shot straight across the jacket and gone. Actually, it does, thinking about it. It does done it every time I take the piss out of Christianity.
Is it?
Yeah? It's always when we're talking about either paganism or Christianity. It's always when we talk about religion.
Oh,
It's,
that's interesting.
it's the fictitious Archangel Michael coming to punish me. You need to set cameras up, Brett. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. See, the thing is, I've got the CCTV, but I'm gonna have to start doing that. Setting it up to see if I can catch it. Because I've sent Andy a picture of it. He says it looked like a ghost. It does actually look. If you imagine the Pac-Man ghosts, turn them on the side and flatten the head. That's roughly what it looks like. Where's Chad? Who's Chad? Who's Chad?
There's only one Chad I know.
Exploring with Chad.
Yeah.
He was in earlier.
Oh, worry.
Yeah?
Oh, I missed him.
But yeah, it's the weirdest shaped light I've ever seen. Do you have any idea what is there or who is? Oh, there's all sorts here, Nicky. We've had a shadow dog that Jason's seen. I've seen a big shadow on the top of the landing once that was about 7 feet tall. We had a mimic in the kitchen that went on for about 3 months. That kept calling the dogs into the kitchen, and they kept running in like suckers. We've had cupboard doors opening, things sliding across the counter at Jason. We've had all sorts happening here, Nicky. All sorts. We've had an attempted poisoning via coffee and gravy. All sorts. But there's
I
not.
think you're gonna find coffee flavoured bloody muesli or whatever it is you've got. For it.
Porridge.
Porridge oats, yeah. Coffee flavoured porridge.
Well, luckily them in sealed sachets.
No.
So unless I found a way of teleporting it in, I should be sat. Mind you, it'll stand out in the porridge because it's like white coloured in it.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So, but there again, this is Jace. He probably wouldn't notice when he tipped it in the Watsy. And he'd think it was chocolate porridge or something. But yeah, we've had all sorts happen here, Nicky. But apparently the house has got history before I moved in anyway, which I weren't aware of until after I'd moved in. That the neighbours informed me of. But Alison next door gets a lot of. Well, her actually asked me the other day if I'd been doing anything in the house because apparently over the last few weeks it's ramped up in her house as well. And I know the house at the other end is getting a lot of it as well. She's getting her paintings ruined and all sorts going on in their house.
Yeah.
Something's painting over her pictures overnight. Please get the cameras recording. I'd love to see it. Andy saw it on camera.
Yeah, I thought it was past Bear. Yeah.
The very first time I set me Rem bear up after I brought my Rem bear back, Andy saw it on camera while we were just having a general chat. But it had a black friend at that point, like a cloud. But that went out, and then the white one came in, or was it? No, the black one went out, and then the white one came in, which was
Yeah,
no,
that's right. Yeah.
no. The white one went out, and the black one came in, and then
Oh, is it?
disappeared. Yeah,
Right.
it zipped past
I know.
the
Oh my God.
camera, and then it went out the door, and then the black cloud floated in a couple of seconds after. But there's, I don't get the impression there's anything nasty here. And I've said since that gravy thing happened, I think that was just a joke. Could be connected to the land. Um, Apparently, there's a young girl been seen. There used to be a young girl seen in here quite regularly, and she's been seen in a couple of the other houses along the line, because we're in a little block of 7 all on our own, not connected to anything else. And apparently, she's been seen in the other houses as well. But apparently, this was the main one, the main house where she appeared the most. Used to appear to the family who lived here and to one of the daughter's boyfriends as well. She was apparently full body apparition to the boyfriend. Scared the life out of him. He refused to come in the house. She actually materialised sitting on the bed when he was in the bedroom with her. So that must have been quite so what's it. But I've never seen her. I've never seen a young girl here. Not once. Not once. But it started with the mimic. And I actually had a bit of a row with Jason over the first time it happened, because I thought he was winding the dogs up on purpose, and he hadn't got a clue what I was on about. But it wasn't interesting. It was interesting. That was Andy.
Sounds it.
It was interesting, and I had that happen about 6 times altogether in the end, over a period of 3 months. But the problem was there was no pattern to it. I said to Jace, I really wish I could have worked out a pattern to record it, because had it have just been me, I'd have put it down to me hearing things. But the fact the dogs was getting up and running to the door, thinking he was there, it was unbelievable. And it had come in and it would go hello, 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 quite loud enough for me to hear here sitting in the living room. And these pair would jump up and go running into the kitchen to say hello to him, and he weren't there. But I used to hear the door open and close as well.
Bizarre.
Yeah. But that could even be residual. It could have literally been, because he says it every time he comes in. He always does it with them hello, 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 hello. So it could have recorded it into the kitchen wall. For all I know. But it was definitely odd. But there was no way the coffee incident was residual. And I have no idea what that big shadow thing was on the landing that night. No idea at all. And Jay's seen that dog twice with it, where he says Alsatian with pricked up ears.
Yeah.
But I've never seen the dog. But Jace has seen it twice. Do you have anything happening in yours apart from?
No, we hadn't had much for a while. We had that little burst when Alan come into the team.
Mm-hmm.
But it's dropped quiet again.
Perhaps I'm building up for something.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't had much at all in here lately.
See, I've got my little action cam that it's got motion detection on it, and I actually converted it to infrared. So I suppose I could, if I can I'll get an adapter and plug it in one night on the landing, because the landing is one of the most active places here. The kitchen tends to happen when when either when we're in bed or when Jason's in there on his own. And I think that's deliberate, because I think they like the reaction they get off Jace. Do you believe there is alien dinosaur species? Well, I suppose if you think about it, Carl, if they've gone through the same sorts of evolution as we have, there's quite possibly they'd have their own versions of dinosaurs. Every planet that's got intelligent life on it would have gone through earlier primitive phases. Need what's an infrared camera? What's an infrared camera, Rose?
She mean infrared? It might have been like a bloody spelling autocorrect thing.
I'll say this action cam's infrared, and me CCTV cameras are infrared as well. Yeah, the cameras I've got, all my cameras are infrared. My camcorder's infrared as well. Yeah. Yeah, all my cameras are IR, Rose. Please do it, Brett. Get the cameras recording. Yeah, I'm going to have to. But like I say, it's very sporadic here. There's no timetable to it. I've been here over 3 years now, and it can be periods where nothing happens for 6-8 weeks. And then all of a sudden, over the space of a few days or weeks, it'll go bang, 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 one after the other. And then nothing again for weeks. It's really weird. Blame the spell check. I always blame the spell check.
You've got to.
The truth is, I'm just a bad typer.
Is Sam going off? Looks like she's not feeling too great.
Okay, Sam, talk to you soon.
Good night, Sam.
You have a good
Feel
night's
better soon.
rest. You need one what? Rose? A spell checker or a infrared camera? What cameras does Rose use, Andy?
What, for her lives and stuff? I think it's one on laptop.
Oh, it's just the laptop set up.
Yeah, I think she's got 2 laptops.
Good night, Sam. You have a good night's sleep and I hope you feel better tomorrow. Hope you ain't getting what I've got, because it just won't ring. It's just refusing to leave. It's a nightmare. Your best bet, Rose, is to buy a cheap camcorder. See, because I bought a cheap camcorder off Amazon, but it's also got webcam mode on it, so I can plug it. It's what I use for my card readings and stuff. But because it's got the IR function on it, I can turn it on as a normal camera, turn the IR off, then turn the camera off and back on as a webcam, and it's an IR webcam as well.
That's cool.
Yeah, which I was really pleased about. Have you caught anything, Rose, on your lives? Loads of stuff. There's all sorts of knockings and stuff. So have you got enough stuff with that Verno sent you to do a video?
Yeah, I've got a 49-minute video club together. What I've done is, somewhat live stream.
Mm-hmm.
I've chopped that into all best bits.
Yeah.
Obviously, because it had an introduction, because we didn't get a chance to film an introduction for that video.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes into what happened after to what we filmed.
Right.
I've got 49 minutes left altogether. There's some interesting bits, but it's, a lot on it's just REM-bear communication, because we're trying to get to the bottom of what's going on, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we have got 4 clips Verno kindly donated a car making an appearance, which is Verno's spirit energy friend that helps him out.
Big spirit energy friend.
There's one Brett where I'm laid on the floor because I was trying to see if I could slide REM-bear into my hand across coffee table.
Yeah.
But because we were packing down at time, me and Becky weren't really recording that bit. I was just messing about, and she comes up past me, REM-bear alarms, and she floats up in front of the TV, and you can proper see her right well on, against TV screen.
You ain't gonna believe these clips when you see them, because Cara is absolutely huge.
I think I saw her, because on one of the clips where she floats from Becky just past me.
Yeah.
And it were at a point. I mean, I've done it on, cause obviously there's our view of it and then Verno's view of it, and I look, and as she's floating over, I kind of do a circle with my wand and I point and I go, something's just appeared there.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a visual of like something right quick and like round pop up.
Yeah.
And it was Cara.
So
You see me saying it?
did you see her in orb form or in full figure form?
No, it was it was just a circle opening next to Becky. And that's the exact point that she floats past us as I start curling wand up. And I go, something's just appeared there. So yeah, I saw her.
Yeah. But she's absolutely huge. You know, if you think these dust particles are orbs, wait till you see her.
Yeah, she is massive.
She's huge. Absolutely huge. Can you let me know what your webcam is called? My camcorder, which I use, is an Andover one. But I've also got converted action cams as well. But the one I use for my streams is a camcorder. It's an Andover camcorder, but it's got a webcam function. But it's also IR as well. I'll get the model number for you tomorrow, Rose, and I'll message it you. I'll stick it on your channel chat. But it was only a cheap, and it was only something like about 90 quid. And it'll probably be cheaper than that now. But the good thing is you can even set it as in webcam mode in IR. You can have it in normal or IR, and it came with a free wide angle lens as well, which is really good. That you can screw on.
But yeah, we've got a few interesting EVPs at Rose's house as well. Up at camcorder. One were on a static cam that were facing upstairs, and Rose tells a story about stuff that comes and gets on your face.
Right.
Yeah. And the
Was the playing with that big penis at the time?
No, no. She says that these certain energies in her house come and get on your face and suck you. Yeah.
Are you sure she weren't playing with his big penis at the time?
Suck your energy. And EVP actually says, get on your face.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. So I can confirm that she's right with whatever that is.
What if you... What's that? With the IR, you're still in total darkness. Yeah. Yeah. I want webcam for night streaming. Yeah, well, this camcorder's ideal for it, Rose, because you just set it in IR mode and then set it into webcam mode. So you've then got an infrared webcam. It's really good the way it works. And I'll literally plug it straight into the computer.
Yeah, she's the little face sucker. That's what she calls them.
They sound a bit creepy.
Yeah.
Why would you want something sucking your face?
I'm absolutely bloody gutted, you know, there's much more we could have done.
You'd have probably got a load more.
I know. I'm gutted, but hopefully after New Year I'll be going back. Definitely interested in another round at it, if you know what I mean.
How long does it take you to get there? About an hour and a half?
Yeah, it's not too bad. Travel.
That ain't too bad, an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But it does make you wonder what you might have got had you been able to stay.
I know. And if I weren't that tired, if Vernon would have given me car keys and I could have got a couple of hours sleep in his car, I'd probably just managed to, get rest on it. But, very interesting stuff. Like I said, I'm struggling to save video because my computer keeps shutting down. Every time I try and save video, computer just shuts off.
That's right. That is really freaky.
I know. I've emptied my hard drive while.
And is it while you're doing the actual editing software?
No, it's just while I'm saving art. So I'll export file, to save. Yeah. And it can go an hour or two, and then just both gone. Computer just shuts off.
That's freaky.
I've tried it about 4 times, but while we've been chatting tonight, I've absolutely emptied my hard drive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just to
See, to me,
try and help
it
it.
sounds to me like that's your graphics card overeating the computer.
Yeah.
Because that what that was happening with mine, and in the end, I had to buy a new power unit for it, a bigger
Right.
power unit, because it was a new card I'd bought, and it was literally just overloading the power, the PCU in the computer. It was getting too warm, and it just click off. It didn't even shut down. It just lost all power instantly.
Yeah.
And then in the end, I
It's
bought a
never
new
done it
modular one.
before. Never done it before. What I said I might do is like stick another 40-minute video in that I've got and just try and resave it out and see what it does.
Yeah.
You know,
What editing software do you use?
it's called Mojave.
Oh, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It ain't known as a CPU intensive one, is it?
No, not at all.
Weird.
I know.
You know, but it might just be that your PSU's on the way out, and
Oof,
they're easy.
great.
They're easy enough to replace.
Right.
It's only a few minutes, and then you just pull your plugs off your motherboard and plug them back in again.
Okay.
It
I
takes.
can always try putting big standing fan next to it.
Yeah,
With side off.
yeah. Anything to cool it off, to keep it cool.
Yeah.
If you put your hand down the back of your computer when it just as it's gone off and feel how hot see if that PSU is really hot.
Yeah.
It may just be that you need to get the vacuum cleaner behind it and blow it out. Because
Yeah,
you'll be surprised how much dust they attract. Because you know it's the electromagnetic field they generate.
That's it.
They suck in all the dust like a bloody black hole for dust. PSUs, them a nightmare. But you may find even just running the vacuum over it and putting a fan on it'll do it. Because
Yeah.
it definitely sounds to me if it's just switching off without powering down, just switching off instantly,
Yeah,
that's
it's
that's
just
your
putting it
PSU overheating.
Right.
Because that's what mine did. Good night, Bridget.
Good night.
Elmo's creepy out haunted house. Yes, I know. I'll watch it. Do you know this? I've been having some right weird notifications pop up the last few days.
Alright.
You know, like I'll watch a YT video. I'll get up the next morning, and you know the computer will be on for 2 hours, and it'll pop up a notification of something I watched yesterday,
Oh.
as if it's just going live sort of thing. And it's like what the.
Yeah.
And I'm with my YouTube handy, and it did it on my old computer as well, which is really weird. You know, if you watch a video,
Yeah.
and then I select another video, sometimes it jumbles all the comments together on the video.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the titles will be merged and stuff. It's really strange.
Yeah, that sounds a bit odd.
And my old computer did it as well. Don't know why it's doing it, but it is doing it. But yeah,
Very
it's
strange.
weird. But it may be that some are video intensive. There may be some really crunchy intensive in that video.
Yeah,
So you
it
just
could
need to
be.
keep
It
your
might be some of Verno's clips.
Yeah, you need to keep your PSU as cool as possible. But that's the best way to tell if it goes off next time. Just put your hand down by
Yeah.
and feel how hot it is. And if it feels really hot, that's what it is. It's your PSU getting hot and cutting out.
Right.
Because they've got an automatic cut off on them. If they overheat, they automatically cut off.
It's doing me head in because I were hoping to premiere it tomorrow night.
Yeah.
No chance now.
Depend how long is it? 40 odd minutes.
49 minutes.
Oh, that's
yeah.
gonna be a bugger to process and upload. Because it takes pissing YouTube forever to process them once them uploaded. And you got no control over that, because once it goes into the processing stage, it's their servers that take over.
That's it.
There ain't much you can do about that. What time is it?
It is about 11:10ish.
Ain't too bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad at all.
I don't want to be too late tonight, because I'm having to get up early tomorrow.
Why? What's happening tomorrow again?
Doing my box. I gotta carry a load of stuff over. I'll bring me Dremel and I'll bring all me bits and stuff.
Yeah,
Is
cool.
there anything else I got to bring?
No, that should be enough.
I think obviously I got to bring the PSP 7.
Well,
Um,
yeah.
I think I've got everything else in the bag already. I've put the batteries in with the box. I'll put some
Right.
new batteries in the PSP 7 before I leave tomorrow because it just eats through 'em, my PSP 7.
Mhm.
It's a bugger for
Yeah,
him.
might.
It's a shame that they make it slightly thicker and use a PP3 in it. It might have lasted a lot longer. Because
Yeah.
you know, because that Roberts I've got, that uses 4 AAs, and that's lasted forever, Andy.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, he's still got loads of power in it, and I listen to that quite a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
I put the bloody PSP 7 on, and after an hour or so, the batteries are almost dead. It's like Jesus Christ. But I do like my PSP 7.
Yeah, I've always had a fondness of it.
But there was that guy talking on my equipment video today
Oh,
about that
yeah.
Estes method, and if you read it, it's basically saying that you need a spirit box to actually do it. You can't do it without the spirit box, and them saying, oh, it might be your mind forming the words from what the spirit box is hearing off the spirit box, but either way, you still need the spirit box.
Well, yeah.
And he was going, oh, that proves that spirit boxes don't work, and I'm thinking he's actually proving the opposite. But there's no convincing some people.
There ain't no.
And I did just put, well, I've given you the courtesy of accepting the fact your beliefs in the spirit box.
Yeah.
Aren't you going to give me the same courtesy? And you just put yes, mate.
Oh.
So I've left it at that now. I thought, well,
Yeah.
if you can't even give me the common courtesy of just accepting my belief, well, there you go.
This is it.
Can't be helped. I've had that talking to Grumpy on Dark Art Stream. Had what talking to Grumpy? Why were you talking to Grumpy on Dark Art Stream? Why would Grumpy be on Dark Art Stream?
I don't know.
Oh, is Dark Art stealing Grumpy? Huh? Definitely an odd one.
Yeah.
But it's weird I've seen that light again tonight. It's really weird I've seen that light, Andy. I ain't seen it for days. Absolutely. And I said to you, the other day, I ain't seen it for days. I ain't
Let's
seen
try
it.
and ask what it is on
I'm,
one of the boxes.
I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, I would.
I'm gonna have to. Next time it pops up, I'll put the box on straight away and ask what it is.
Yeah. I'd love to hear what comes out.
Yeah. Because I can't see a brownie zipping across walls 6, 7
Oh,
foot
no.
foot up in
They're
the
not
air.
flyers. Yeah, they don't fly at all.
And it's really odd because it tends to be about the same height every time I see it. It's rough. I'd say it's roughly about 5.5 foot, 5 foot up height. But the one in the bedroom, it was actually on the ceiling, and I've got high ceilings in this house, so you're talking
Yeah.
nearly 8 feet when I saw it in the bedroom, and it was on the ceiling. So you're talking 8 foot up at that point.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, it can move at some speed. It really moves. Because originally I thought, is there a light, one of the lamps reflecting off my glasses?
All right, yeah.
When it was stationary on the wall. So I took my glasses off and it was still there, but the one in the bedroom, it was pitch black. I'd got no lights on and I hadn't even got my glasses on and it was there on the ceiling. It was
Yeah.
glowing, it was luminous. But it's just an odd shape.
I'd lay $2,000 on what answer's gonna be.
What do you think it is?
A fairy.
Why would a fairy be in here? apart from Jace.
Taking note. You know, your awareness has expanded about them.
A fairy, got a fairy. Why couldn't it be a leprechaun?
Oh, you don't want one.
You might bring me
They
something nice.
They get very angry on a night.
Oh God, no. Can't be doing with that.
Yeah.
Can't be doing with that. YouTube have been removing subscriptions so people miss. Yeah, I know, Stephen. There's a couple of times I ain't had notifications over the last few days. The other thing to beware as well is they've been banning accounts for using too many emoticons. Have you heard about that, Andy?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep, they've actually, and they not only banning the YouTube account, banning the full Google account for using too
So,
many emoticons,
so using them in what respect?
spamming them.
Oh, right.
So if you're doing lots of posts where it's just like say a string of smiley faces or something,
Yeah.
and people have been having their accounts banned through it.
Really?
Mm.
Wow.
It's caused a right problem. YouTube are claiming they're going to fix it, but is Rose going? Night Rose. Rose ain't said he's going, has her?
I don't know.
Night Mary and Dorothy. But yeah, so just be very careful in chats that you don't spam too many emoticons, because you might end up triggering the bloody accidental ban, and apparently it's a right rigmarole to get your account back at the moment, even though they know it's an error,
Yeah.
because it deletes your Google account as well.
Oh, nightmare.
Apparently it causes a lot of trouble trying to get it back. Because when you contact them, you just get their auto disclaimer saying, oh, the decision's been made, blah, blah, blah. Right, folks, I think I'm going to close the stream down. We'll make it a short one tonight, because, like I say, I've got to be up early tomorrow, and me and Andy normally have a gabble at the end, so
We do.
I need to allow time for that. So, thank you all for coming in. I hope you enjoyed the chat about the aliens and the different things. If you've got any more questions, just put them in the comments, and if I know the answer to them or Andy knows the answer, I'll quite happily try and answer them for you. So,
It's been an interesting one.
it has actually. So, have a good night all, and we'll see you on Sunday with the card reading. That should be another interesting one. I might do a different slant on that again this week.
Oh, okay.
hmm
So long as I don't have to do one, I'll be alright.
I actually enjoyed your reading. It was quite accurate, actually. It's just harder than you think it is when you're sat there with the cards thinking, oh, Jesus, what am I getting off them? You'll find, because the fact you were stressing over it, it was harder as well.
Yeah.
If you'd have just been sitting there reading them without me expecting you to do it, just reading along, you'd have probably found it went a lot smoother. Okay, good night everybody, and thanks for coming, and see you all Sunday if you want to pop on for the card readings. So,
good night, everybody.
have a good night all.